Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for that crazy The Walking Dead Season 8 finale episode. Alright, so what a crazy finale, guys. Honestly, I have mixed feelings about this one. I thought some parts were just amazing. I mean, some parts were just freaking awesome. But some parts just kind of got on my nerves a little bit and kind of annoyed me. So, yeah, so we'll obviously, go through this. This actually will probably be a very long video. I'm thinking like maybe 40 minutes. So, I try to make these a little bit shorter, but this one, there's so much to tackle because this episode, they jammed a whole lot of stuff into this one, which is, again, one of my negatives for this one is, maybe there wouldn't be so much jammed into this one if during the season they gave us a little bit more, right, during the, season 8, during the other episodes, then they wouldn't have to jam all this stuff into this finale. But that's the way The Walking Dead has been for years. I mean, that's the way they do things. They basically, a whole season is pretty much to set up for a finale or the premiere. Finales and premieres tend to be the best, episodes of the show. And that's just how it's gone, for as long as the show's been on, pretty much. So, anyways, yeah, so of course, go over a little bit of a recap here, and then, of course, share some more overall thoughts along with a rating and my favorite character for this episode. Either way, it's going to be really, it's going to be hard, without Walking Dead on Sundays now. Fear the Walking Dead is now on. I think I actually might check that out. I might have a review for that of the premiere of Season 4. I'm not caught up with it. I've only seen about halfway through Season 1. So yeah, so I'm not caught up with it, so I think it'd be interesting for me to do a review in the perspective of someone who hasn't seen the past 3 seasons in full, and then do that, because that's what they're saying. AMC is saying, oh, well, you don't have to see the last 3 seasons. Like, this is a whole new show. So I kind of want to test that. I want to see, if I can kind of keep up with things. But anyways, that's that. But, yeah, this finale. So it's going to be hard, going through the whole summer here without Walking Dead. But Season 9 is going to be a big change. Obviously, you have a new showrunner, and a lot of things are going to be changing here. So, yeah, very interesting. So, we start off this one, okay? So we start out this one with a Carl and Rick flashback. This was awesome, emotional too, but very, very cool. And I think that they kind of, like, they refilmed this, I think, and I wonder, I don't know, or maybe that is original footage back from season, I think it was season 2 that they were there on the farm. So yeah, I think that was maybe season 2 that Carl and Rick, took that walk. But yeah, very interesting. So I bet they hired like a different kid to play the role, of course. I don't think that was original footage, but it might be. Anyways, it was very emotional, very, it really got you, just right off the bat there, kind of feeling for Carl and what Rick is going to do, right? Carl is inspiring Rick to do things here, obviously. So that was really awesome to start off the episode. So then we see Daryl sets up the plan for the survivors, but we do see a little bit of a hint there where he suspects that it may be a trap, right? And he's right. Like, he is correct, of course, that we know. But to him, he kind of suspects it a little bit, that it might be a trap, which is interesting. I mean, that's Daryl, right? He's really suspicious of those things, and, does his due diligence. But anyways, then Morgan sees Alden and the Saviors coming in from the gate. Alden's the kind of the leader of them right now. So Morgan is going after them all of a sudden, and then Henry kind of comes and he attacks Henry, takes him down to the ground, and almost kills him. He like has him, just at his stick's point there is, his stick's point, I guess, that's how you'd say it. But anyways, I think at this point he's officially lost his mind, right? I mean, the Saviors were just clearing the wall, and now he's, almost killed Henry, and then, Carol kind of helps him up, and Morgan notices, though, still at this point, he's like, oh, that's Henry, I probably shouldn't kill him, right? Like, he still has that knowledge, of course, but for a second there, like, he was seriously thinking about killing Henry, and he had him there, and he could have done it. So very worrisome there, of course. And then Rick kind of pulls him aside after that, and they kind of talk. So this was a really good discussion here. Some really good lines between the two. So Morgan and Rick talk about what happened in the bar, right, in episode 14. And Morgan, this comes back, and I really wanted this to take place, this conversation to happen. Morgan saying, Rick crossed the line, giving his word, right? And, he knows that was wrong for Rick to do that. Right, and he knows that crosses a line for Rick. His word has meant everything in the past, and I made this point in the review for episode 14. Now, without his word, what is he? What is he good for? Right, that's his biggest thing, and now he's just kind of violated that. So obviously, this comes back here, and Morgan says, "We've already lost everything. Let's just finish this," right? And by everything, he means their morals, pretty much, right? He's saying, Rick, his word means nothing now. He totally lied and deceived them and killed all of them. Morgan just wants to kill everything in his sight. So they have basically lost their morals. They have lost who they are. And so he says, well, why not just fight then, right? Like, why not just kill some more? Because we've already lost it. So very, very interesting point of view here from Morgan. And he convinces Rick to let him come with them. So, and we knew that was going to happen, but Morgan was not going to miss out on this fight. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was a really, really big pivotal line in this episode. And I think that's big for Rick too, right? I mean, like if Morgan is kind of, telling him this, and I think this influences his decision later on, of course, because, Morgan's saying, we've lost everything. You've lost our morals. You broke your word. I mean, I think this really gets to Rick, right? So then we see Saviors at the bullet-making factory there. We see Dwight wearing the A outfit, or the asshole outfit that Negan refers to him as, and he's beat up, right? His face is all, gouged a little bit. And Negan says, you used to have these people's respect, and now you have nothing. So he's going to take Dwight with him to the battlefield, pretty much. So that was kind of interesting there. How Negan's basically, decided to treat him. So then Eugene gives Negan a gun to test the bullets on. It was a little doll with the Rick written on it, and Negan kind of thought that was pretty funny. It was pretty funny, and he's kind of, having target practice there. And then Eugene tells Negan that he wants to come along and see Rick and the group get shot down, pretty much, right? Get shot down at a firing range there in the forest. And, Negan asks him, are you sure you want to see that? And he says, it's more of a need-to thing. And it's like, really, Eugene? Like, So, at this point, I mean, Eugene is too far gone, right? I mean, he's stone cold Negan, or so we think, right? Of course, later in the episode, it's totally reversed. But at this point, you're like, okay, screw Eugene, man. Like, he needs to die. Nothing's going to happen here that he can redeem himself. And there's one thing that he could have done, and he basically did it in this episode later on. But at this point, you're like, wow, for Eugene to say something like that, it's pretty crazy. But anyways, so then Negan confesses to Gabriel over top. We hear the audio, and then we see what's happening. Basically, Negan's telling us what is going to be happening here, and Rick and the group is in the forest there, right? So this was interesting. I like this little, like, kind of, it was kind of humorous, actually. Negan's kind of jokingly, confessing to Gabriel, because he's a priest. But anyway, so Negan basically planted a bunch of the Saviors he didn't like. So, and that was hilarious. I really like that. He just didn't really like these guys, so he kind of set them as a trap, right, for Rick and his people to take out. So basically, his plan is that Rick is going to take them out, find the map that's on there, which is a fake map, and then Rick's going to fall for that, and that's going to lead them right into the trap, right? Because Negan basically doesn't think that they're actually going to just buy the map from Dwight, right? So he really thinks about this, right? And so Rick and the people easily shoot them all down, right? And Negan has it all planned out, and he's really outsmarting Rick to the T here. And he did in this episode, like, whether he got defeated like he did in this one or not, he outsmarted the hell out of Rick. I mean, just the way he totally toyed with them and played with them to do exactly what they wanted. So, anyways, then the group, so this is Negan saying the group will find a map where they think Negan is, and they will buy it, right? Because they kind of suspect right now that it's a trap, because it came from Gregory. So then this, kind of enforces that it's a trap. This will lead them right to the field, and right in the line of fire. So Morgan brutally kills the Savior Man by cutting his throat. And it's like, we're kind of getting used to seeing this type of Morgan. And then he starts to see Jared. Jared's back, hopefully for the last time. But Jared says, you don't die, huh? You ought to try it sometime. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a throwaway line there, but very interesting to see Jared again. Yeah, I mean, I really hated him, but now that he's dead and seeing him in this scene, I kind of appreciate his character a little bit more in the way that they were able to basically make him, hated by everyone, in the course of, 2 seasons. So, anyways, then Ezekiel actually does find the map, then finally, that Negan has planted, and they fall for the new trap completely. They basically fall for the trap on top of the trap, yeah, totally get outsmarted here, and then Gabriel jumps out of the car as Negan talks to him about killing every last one of them. So that's his plan. He wants to kill every one of them, and Gabriel just jumps out of the car when it's moving, too, moving. So, anyways, so then, of course, we come back from commercial there. Eugene and Laura find Gabriel in the forest. Of course, he doesn't get too far because he can't see very well. His vision's, very impaired. So anyways, then Eugene threatens to shoot him. I thought this was like, I don't know, I found it kind of funny because, Eugene's kind of like acting like a tough guy here. And of course, later in the episode, we learned that was all just an act. But he's acting like a tough guy. He's like threatening to shoot him and stuff with a gun in his face and everything. It's like we haven't seen this Eugene in a while. So then Negan shows up and he hits him in the gut with Lucille. At this point, we're kind of like, whoa, like, is he gonna Lucille Gabriel right here? But no, he tells them to load him up, and sounds like he is going to kill him for sure, though, after he jumped out of the car, right? By the sounds of it, he says, it said, like, you wanted a fruitful death, oh, well, you don't always get what you want. So essentially, he's going to kill him, and pretty much not for a good reason, right? So that's interesting, but obviously we know that doesn't happen, but that's what Negan decides to do. So we see Jesus, he approaches Morgan as they're walking to the location here, tries to still convince him that he doesn't have to kill everyone, right? And I think it's getting a little bit old at this point. Turns out that this actually may have gone to Morgan a little bit, but it's a little old, seeing this theme again and again with Jesus telling Morgan, not to kill, we can save people and all that. I don't know, it's just a little old at this point, especially with Morgan kind of being the way he is. Is that really going to work? Probably not. And then the group comes over a hill and looks out over this valley, and that was a crazy sight for The Walking Dead. We haven't, seen something like that, I don't think, ever in the show, and this is kind of reinforcing the idea of a new world, right? A new beginning. So that's very interesting there that we kind of, see that image there. So, yeah, very good there. So then we're back at the hilltop. So we, changed locations pretty fast here, too. And a lot of stuff is, going back and forth. So we're back at the hilltop then. The Saviors drive up to the gates. So they totally bamboozled them pretty much. Sorry for the, lack of better word there. But anyways, so they basically, they tricked them, right? So now the Saviors are going to the hilltop to finish them off, while Rick and their group get gunned down by Negan and his. So, anyways, and then the man screams, "Saviors!" Right? That's kind of become an iconic thing now. But anyways, so Rick and the group, we're back to them now. They're in an open field, and they start to hear the whistling. And this was a really, really big flashback to, of course, the Season 7 premiere, Season 6 finale, right? Where they heard that whistling in the forest there. So Negan on the megaphone says, talks to them, and basically they fell right for the trap, and this was really annoying. It's like, oh my god, how did you fall exactly for the trap, and now you're totally vulnerable, you're in the middle of this field, and all the Saviors are lined up right above them on the hill to take them out. So, really, really frustrating here to see this again, and Negan says, I brought you some of your old friends. You remember Eugene? He's the one who made today possible. Same goes for Dwighty Boy. I love Dwighty Boy. I love that. So I like this. Negan says he is just a gutless nothing that sucks at life. Oh, I love that. That was awesome. Just such a good line there from Negan, saying, he's a traitor. He's, nothing. He's good for nothing, right? I love that. And then the group finds out that Negan has caught him, right? They finally figure out that Dwight has been caught by Negan and that he's been compromised pretty much. So They've lost their inside man, and that's kind of the least of their problems right now, though. So Negan then puts a gun to Gabriel's head, and he says, "We are cleaning house today, Rick. Then there's you. Here we go. Congratulations, Rick," right? And so then he starts counting down from 3, right? 3, 2, 1, right? And the group has nowhere to go. I mean, they, like, are trapped there. They have nowhere to go. They're, like, in a vulnerable place. They have nothing, to go, nowhere to run. And then at 1, the Saviors start firing, and something happens. They basically, I actually thought they were getting shot at, right? But then, of course, later we learned that, Eugene did something to the bullets. But yeah, so crazy here. So a bunch of them are getting basically shot back, and their hands, right? They're getting shot in their hands because that's what they're holding the gun with, of course. So a bunch of them kind of fall down, and all of a sudden this creates, a big, I guess not a distraction, but kind of like a big pause, right? And this gives the survivors a chance to, kind of get up the hill and make some progress and get out of that vulnerable spot. So then Negan gets shot in the hand himself as he fires, and then Gabriel knocks him down to the ground. That was awesome. He gives him a good right to the face there, and then Negan gets up and Dwight charges at him, right? So Dwight's just as sick of him as Gabriel is, and then Negan runs away a little bit. The group runs up the hill, charging into battle, right? And this was an awesome little thing here, shooting the Saviors, right, one by one. And then we see Eugenia tried to attack Eugene, and says, "It was him, he did this." And she totally figures it out, of course, like most of the Saviors. But anyway, so then Rosita just shoots her down, just like that. Eugena's dead, and actually saves Eugene, right? Because she kind of suspects that he was behind this. So then we see Morgan hits the Savior down, right, with his stick. He hits him down. He's about to kill him. But Jesus says, "You don't have to." And surprisingly, he obliges. He actually listens to Jesus and doesn't kill him, which, again, I'll talk a little bit about later, but why this sudden flip? I mean, you literally have that conversation with Jesus a little bit earlier, and that's about it, right? So how does this all of a sudden flip him from what we've been seeing the last, 7 episodes of Morgan? So that's what I want to talk a little bit about later, but surprisingly, he obliges. He doesn't kill him. He lets him live. So we see, and I mean, I kind of get it too, because they're winning. They basically almost won by now anyways. So what's the point, right? I get it. But the group then gets to the top, and Laura and the Saviors get on their knees and surrender. She says, "We're done. It's over." So crazy stuff here. Kind of an easy defeat, to be honest. But yeah, so Laura and the Saviors kind of go down and they surrender. And I really like this because Negan just said in the last episode, he said, "Even if you came to me on your knees, ready to surrender, I would still kill you," right? That's the way I'm looking at this. I want to kill every single one of you. And in this, that is exactly what happens. They come on their knees to surrender, and the survivors choose to not kill them. They choose to let them live. So that was also very good too. Then Rick chases Negan down, right? He's not letting him go. So Negan gets to the tree there that we have seen earlier in the season. Oh my gosh, right? And then we get a commercial break, right? So anyways, building that suspense. But yeah, so we get to that elusive tree with the panels hanging down from it that we've seen before in the season. All right, so then we come back from commercial. We see Tara and the rest of the people flee from the hilltop, right? So she wants, they're all getting out of there, of course, because they don't really stand a chance against all the Saviors coming there. They can't really fight them. I have a feeling that probably most of the weaker ones stayed back, right? Sort of the women and the children type of thing, stayed back at the hilltop and didn't go for this, big battle. So those are the people who are there, kind of vulnerable people, right? And Tara definitely is obviously an outlier from that, but, she's probably the most dangerous one there, and she chooses to stay. But anyways, Tara says she wants to slow them down. She wants to make a stand, right? So the rest of them can kind of get away. So Alden and the Saviors agree to help her. So this was, nice to see that Alden, kind of comes and helps her. So they help. They're all standing there, right? They're about to shoot them down as they come around the corner there from the hilltop trying to find them. They're about to fire, but then Aaron and the Oceanside women show up, and they're, start throwing little fire grenades, I think, at them, setting them all on fire, and so then, a little bit of gunfire happens, right? And they're able to stop the Saviors there at the hilltop. Now, again, not a big surprise. This was, very predictable. But still pretty awesome, right? Still pretty awesome to see the Oceanside, come in there and, and help them out and get them, down. So, honestly, I think that Tara and Alden and them kind of had a chance against them anyways. So, having the Oceanside come in here, yeah, like I said, it's awesome. It's pretty cool to see. But did they really need the Oceanside? Probably not, right? But we do know that Oceanside doesn't really have any guns to begin with. So, I mean, they were literally just there for the numbers, practically, right? So, interesting stuff there, and we didn't really see anything with them after that. They were only in there for, like, less than a minute on screen. So I'll have to see where that goes. Maybe they go back to the Oceanside. Maybe they, stay in the community with them and live together. Who knows, right? But we'll have to see where that goes. That's probably the only thing that we didn't see wrapped up in the finale. So then Negan throws his bat away, and he's ready to go mano-a-mano with Rick, right? He's ready to, take him down with his fists. And he's, he doesn't need his bat. So that was a very interesting thing there. And we just saw that last episode with Simon. So he's confident now, right? He took down Simon. He's going to take down Rick. So he takes Rick down pretty easily, right? And he kicks him when he's down, right? He gets him, gets him down. And it looks like Rick's defeated. I mean, he is down. He's outmatched at this point. Negan then gets his bat, and he's about to swing. It's about to be over here, and Negan's about to kill him. Which, Negan kills him. He's still defeated and the Saviors are done, right? And I think he knows this at this point, but he still just wants to kill Rick. That's, he wants to kill Rick and then he dies, he'll be okay. Kind of like that, right? So anyways, then Negan says, some very important line actually. He says that eeny, meeny, miny, mo was bullshit. I made my choice. I just didn't want to kill a kid's dad right in front of him, but I should have. Maybe he would even be alive if I had done it. So, very, very interesting here, right? And that's the way Negan thinks. He blames Rick for Carl dying, thinking that Rick's not a good father and all that stuff. And that's very interesting to learn, right? That eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing, that was just all made up. He chose the people that he wanted to kill right off the bat, which, we kind of suspected back then even. But it's, interesting to hear him, right? Kind of his, not his dying words, right? Because he's, about to kill Rick, but sort of his, like, last words to Rick, which is very interesting. So then Rick kicks his legs out from under him, and he falls. So that was, Rick's kind of tired of his bullshit, right? He's tired of hearing him talk, and we've heard Rick, say, shut up, he's kind of tired of all Negan's talk. But anyways, then Rick tells him that he's beat and that his people have surrendered, right? So he's telling Negan, it's over. The battle is over. You're done. Why, what are you doing or whatever? And Negan says, I'll get out of it. I always do. It's just you and me, Rick. You are torn up. I am bigger. I am badder. And I got a bat. So I love those lines there. It's like, that's just vintage Negan there. Or classic Negan, sorry, just saying, I'm big, I'm bad, and I got a bat. Let's just finish this. You know what I mean? That's Negan's mentality right now. And then Rick, he goes in and, kind of says that we can have a future, and he wants to tell him how. In 10 seconds, he says, give me 10 seconds. Negan, he surprisingly gives him 10 seconds. So he gives him 10 seconds. He gets really emotional when, as Rick talks about Carl's wishes, right? So that's the way Rick kind of gets to him. And Rick knows that, Carl's kind of a soft spot for Negan at this point, right? So, then of course, he kind of talks about Carl, says, he wanted this to happen. He wanted us to, be peaceful, that we didn't have to fight anymore. And then all of a sudden, Negan's getting really, really emotional. He's kind of, vulnerable for a few seconds there. He's really breaking down, thinking about Carl and all that. And then Rick takes advantage and slices his throat with a piece of glass. Oh my gosh. And then Negan's on the ground there holding his throat and he's bleeding out. I mean, at this point, I'm like, they killed Negan. They did it, right? They killed him. Rick finally took him out. And, of course, they chose to keep him alive. Anyways, so Then all of a sudden, Negan's kind of there. He's just slit his throat open, and Negan's like on the ground. And Rick starts remembering walking with Carl again, right? That we saw at the very beginning, and he's kind of regretting it. Like really, immediately after, he's regretting it. He's kind of seeing this is not, what Carl wanted. We need to keep Negan alive. We don't, we're not supposed to kill him. And the way that this kind of wound happened is it wouldn't have killed him right away, right? He would have bled out. But anyways, so all the people then come to see what has happened, including the saviors who just surrendered and the rest of the survivors, right? And the people come over there, and Rick yells for Sadiq to save him. He says, "Save him." So Rick makes that decision to save Negan, and Maggie totally upset about this. She objects, she yells like, "No, he killed Glenn," and all this stuff. So, I mean, Maggie's definitely upset, and I totally see where she's coming from. I mean, I even agree with her. I think Negan should be dead. But anyways, Maggie is just distraught. She can't believe it. And Rick says, we have to. He doesn't want to do it, I don't think either. But he says, we have to. We have to do this. And Maggie says, we have to make it right. Right, and like I said, I totally see where she's coming from, and she sobs, right? She falls down and she cries. So she really wanted to see him die. She really wanted to see him die, and totally doesn't agree with this decision, as we see later on. She's totally against it, but Rick decides to tell Sadiq to save him. So and there you go again. I mean, Carl, did he save Negan? I mean, technically, if Sadiq's not there, they don't have a doctor. I don't even know if, Negan could have been saved here. So, there's a way to look at that for sure. But anyways, then we get into this Rick speech, and this was one of the best things of the whole episode here, really reaffirming what's going on. So, I think I have it like line for line here. So I'm just going to read it. It was an awesome speech. So Rick says, "What happened, what we've lost, there's got to be something after," right? And, he's really reaffirming this. And then he tells everyone to put their hands down and says that they are going home, that we're going home. There's not, two sides to this anymore. We're just kind of people, right? We're all together. And he says, Negan's alive, but his way of doing things is over. Anyone who can't live with that will pay the price. I promise you that. Anyone who wants to live in this world for peace and fairness, who would find common ground, this world is yours by right. And again, we see that back in episode 1 of season 8, and he says, this is our world by right, right? So then he says, we are light, that is death, and he points to the big herd of walkers down in the valley there, and he says, and it's coming for us, right? Unless we stand together. So go home, then the work begins. The new world begins. All this is just what was. There's got to be something after. An amazing speech by Rick here. So that just about does it. That concludes the speech. Man, holy crap. I mean, that's just an awesome speech. All of what they've done in season 8 kind of coming together here. Something after. There's got to be something after, the new world and all this stuff. So this speech really just brought everything together, man. Even if you don't agree with keeping Negan alive, I mean, you have to appreciate this. I mean, this is awesome by the writers to really just capture everything that they've done in this season and even in season 7 for the last 2 years and, make a speech like this and for Rick to say this and finally believe it after all this time is just crazy. So that was a really, really great way to kind of end that scene. So then we see right after Rick kind of gives that speech, then everyone, kind of goes back, to the trucks and whatever, walks away. So then Eugene tells Rosita it was him who sabotaged the bullets to explode on themselves, pretty much. That's what took the saviors out. And of course, I actually kind of just figured this out now. I thought someone was like shooting at them or something. But, this kind of just reaffirms that, finally confirms that he was the one who did it. And maybe he's not too far gone, right? Maybe we were wrong. And honestly, I think this was the only thing that he could have done to redeem himself, and he did it. So, definitely, feeling that that he's, he's not too far gone anymore. He's definitely redeemable now, and maybe he'll be forgiven, right? Most likely. So, anyways, and the way he flips here, I do want to touch on a little bit later as well. I don't agree with it, but anyways, then Rosita punches him in the face. Just punches him in the face there. She says that's for the puke, and that was a pretty funny scene there. There was some comedy in here a little bit. In this episode, moments like that. So, that was good. I really like that. So then Morgan gives this armor to Carol to give to Henry. So this was interesting. Morgan says, "Can you tell him I'm going to be okay?" Carol says, "Are you?" And Morgan says, "I'm going to try. I know I need to be." And he takes his stick and walks off. So at this point, I actually thought that was the last time we'd ever see him in The Walking Dead, because of course he's going to Fear, right? So we know this is his last episode of The Walking Dead, or at least for now. He may return later, but for now, that's it. So I thought this was the last scene, but of course we see him a little bit later on. So then Rick sits at the tree there with the panels, and we see the scene we saw in the mid-season premiere, "My mercy prevails over my wrath." Wow. The speech and this, being a Walking Dead fan, this is what it's all about. Honestly, this was amazing. Like I said, just connecting things back, the whole thing, just putting it all together, the whole storyline of Negan, Carl's death, everything coming together to mean something, and finally, seeing this scene again. They hinted at this in the premiere for Season 8, and the mid-season premiere, and then finally in the finale, we actually see it play out. We see this scene, and we see the mercy prevailing over his wrath. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. I can't believe this. So, it's really, it's really awesome. Really, really, really well done. So, and then Rick kind of cries as he sits alone under the tree there. And of course remembering Carl, right? So, very, very emotional thing there. Then we see Alden tells Maggie that he can help build things, help them in the future, right? And he says he's read the Key to the Future book that Georgie gave them. So that was interesting, right? That was very, very interesting to see there. That they mention again that book that Georgie gave them. So, how much is that going to impact Season 9 or the future of the show? We'll have to see. Obviously, that was kind of a weird appearance of Georgie and them. So maybe that's, kind of dropping something in now for the future seasons. And obviously, Alden's kind of on board with it and says, he can help. So Maggie agrees and lets him stay with them and the rest of his group, presumably. So, yeah, really great to see there. Crazy, actually, how that storyline played out with the prisoners, right? When that happened originally in Episode 6, you were kind of like, oh, well, they should all just be killed. But now it's totally turned around, and the writers have done a great job with that. So then Tara and Rosita go to the sanctuary, and they greet Negan's wives. They're actually in clothes, regular clothes now. And I honestly forgot about that, man. Like, really, they're really a forgotten thing in this war. But they've finally been freed from Negan. And and again, I don't want to, jump to conclusions and say they were like his sex slaves, because some of them I think actually did love Negan and actually like wanted to be with him. But some of them, like Sherry and the two that are in this scene, probably didn't want to be with him, right? So it is what it is, but of course they'd probably rather be with him than being one of the workers and being outside all day and stuff like that. So, it is what that is. But anyways, so the bus arrives then with more of the survivors coming to help put the sanctuary back together. So they want to, make that a home again, make, that a livable place. And we get the impression here that they are really going to live together. So that's very interesting to see. And, of course, this is kind of a flashback to basically the Woodbury thing, right, where Rick lets all the Woodbury people come into the prison and live together. So really kind of another sort of flashback to what that was like then. And then we see this very important scene between Dwight and Daryl. And I knew this had to happen, right? I knew that this was, something that needed to be, we needed to see this, right? Whether it was now in the finale or Season 9, it had to happen. We needed to have this scene between Dwight and Daryl, kind of talking things out finally. So this was great. So Daryl takes Dwight out to the forest in the truck, right? And Dwight says, "I know why I'm out here," right? So he knows that, Daryl's probably going to kill him here, and that's what he thinks. So Dwight apologizes for the things he has done. He says, "I know I had to face it, and I'm ready. I got to see Negan taken down, and that's enough. Me, I'm a piece of shit, and there's no going back to the way things were. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And he actually like breaks into tears here, pleading for his life. This was really crazy to see Dwight, and again, like the transition for Dwight here. I mean, we see him in season 6, and then we see him in season 7. Season 6 when he takes out Denise and all that stuff. Like, imagine him then. And now we've seen him. I mean, the transition and the change for Dwight over the past 2 years has been amazing. So that's just another, great thing that they do here. And Daryl, instead of killing him, he decides to throw him the key to the truck, and he tells him to keep going, don't ever come back again, right? And he says, I'm going to kill you if you ever come back. So pretty much Dwight's gone, right, for the foreseeable future here, which is surprising. I thought, Daryl would let him come back with him. But anyways, he says, don't ever come back. You're gone. And he says, you go out there and make it right. Find her. And he means Sherry, right? So Daryl actually, tells Dwight to go find Sherry. And this was a nice thing for Daryl to say. Very interesting that he even remembers that even too. So we see a little bit later on, then Dwight arrives at their house, right, where Sherry and him stayed before, and he finds a note from Sherry addressed to him, and she was there recently. We are kind of led to believe there. So very interesting there. Is he going to meet up with Sherry then, and we'll maybe see him again in season 9? Or maybe we just don't see Dwight again for a while. I'm not exactly sure. An interesting kind of ending to that story there in the finale. So we see Jadis at the junkyard. Morgan knocks on the door and is let in. And Morgan tells her that she can come back to the community if she wants. So, that was very interesting. So Rick actually tells Morgan to go to the junkyard, tell Jadis that she can come back. So Rick lets her join. Then Morgan says Rick is trying to build something. He's trying to show people that things can change. And he says, you don't want to be alone. Everything is about people. Everything in this life that's worth a damn. So that's very interesting that Morgan would say that. And then Jadis tells him, that she's in, whatever, she's coming to come back. And then, he just totally flips. And also Jadis says to call her Anne. So we know that her name actually isn't Jadis. So that was interesting too. She's kind of opening up now, finally now that she knows it's over. And she's kind of looking forward to living together again. And then Morgan, just totally flips it. He's like, you can go back, but I'm going to stay out alone. He says he can't go back to them. He can't do it. So very interesting there. And, of course, that's the last we see of Morgan. May even be the last we see him ever in The Walking Dead. So I feel like they could have done a little bit of better send-off for Morgan, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see that in the beginning of Fear. Maybe we'll see that then they go to the junkyard and they find him or something. Presumably, right? Maybe that is what happens, and maybe that's a little bit better, but for The Walking Dead, at least, that's it. So we see Ezekiel, Jerry, and Carol arrive back at the kingdom, so that was just a little quick, frame there. Maggie then thanks Jesus for telling her to keep the Saviors alive from the satellite outpost, right? So that was, obviously, Jesus was right? That really played out well in their favor, and now those people are actually a part of them. They are, the survivors. They are part of their group now. So that's crazy, right? And this is back, back at the hilltop. So then she says, I don't regret what I did, but you were right. Rick was right about not killing all the Saviors. He was, but not about Negan. Okay, so Maggie is still not okay with this. And then Jesus says, so what does that mean, Maggie, right? What are you saying here? And Maggie says, we have to make this place better, and we need our strength up. We need our ability to defend ourselves, okay? Then she says, Rick and Michonne were wrong, and we are going to show them. Wow, right? What does that mean, right? And then Daryl, I love this. I was actually laughing pretty hard at this. He just comes out of nowhere. I mean, literally nowhere. He just comes out of the shadow, and he, just pipes up, and he says, yeah, we will. I mean, I appreciate it all, but, the way he came into the scene is just hilarious. Why didn't they just have him standing there? I don't know. I just thought that was so funny. I actually burst out into laughter when I was watching. I was like, okay, he's just randomly there now. But anyways, so he says, yeah, we will. So Daryl's on her side, obviously, in this, and he wanted to see Negan die just as much as her, probably. So, very interesting there. So then we see the man himself. We see Negan in the bed there to end the episode off, and then Michonne and Rick, want to show him how what he did feels like, right? They want, him to feel, the way that these other people did, the way he treated people. And then Negan, pipes up again. He's like, I save people. Michonne not too happy about that. So she kind of like chokes him again. So that was interesting. And then Rick says, Carl pictured something and you'll be a part of it. You'll be an example of what this will be. And then Rick says, we're not going to kill you. We're not going to hurt you. But you're going to rot in a cell for the rest of your life. Wow, right? Wow. So they're basically just going to imprison him and instead of killing him. And Rick says, you're going to be evidence that we're making a civilization. And then I think Michonne says, you're going to get to see it. You're going to see that you were wrong. So, very interesting there. And then Rick says, then Michonne says, so after all this, maybe you're good for something, right? Maybe you are good for something in showing people that, we can go back to the way it was. We can lock people up who are criminals instead of just killing them, And very interesting stuff there. Whether that actually works in a world like this, I don't think it does, but, that's the way they're trying to go. That's the way they're trying to create this new world, right? That's the way they're trying to, start over. So, very interesting there. So, they're going to put Negan in the cell. They're going to put him in prison and, instead of killing him. So, anyways, and of course, Maggie and some don't agree. So, then we see, very end of the episode here, we see the memory of Rick and Carl walking again. And then we see kind of Rick in current times there on the porch. This was awesome, man. This ending. So, we hear the audio kind of playing over. And this is it. So, dear Carl, I remember... he says, dear Carl, I remember. I forgot who I was, and you made me remember. He says, the thing is, we were walking side by side, but you were bringing me somewhere, right? He's talking about the, walking there on the farm. He says, bringing me here, bringing all of us to the new world. Carl, you showed me the new world. You made it real. I see it. I remember. And he signs it, Dad. And that's the end. So, what a crazy ending to the episode here. Just so emotional. Wow, what an amazing ending. What an awesome thing to do here. Kind of writing his son a letter after Carl wrote him a letter that kind of changed his outlook here, and really going with that theme of Rick kind of remembering who he was and what he has to do here, and what this new world is going to look like. So, really crazy ending there. Now I'll get to my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts. Alright, so I apologize for how long this one is. I said at the beginning that's going to be a really long one. I really want to talk about everything. So, anyways, for rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.6 out of 5. And yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect one. I have some things to talk about. So, first, sudden Eugene flip. I mean, I don't know. They make Eugene out to be a, Stone Cold Negan, pretty much. And he even says at the beginning here, he says, it's a have-to thing. I want to see Rick and them die, and all this stuff. And then, suddenly, he sabotages the bullets and saves the survivors. How did that happen? How did that flip happen? Even last episode when he was with Rosita and Daryl, he seemed like he was still with the Saviors, and he was still against Rick. So I really just don't understand this flip. I appreciate it in the way that he sabotaged it. It's kind of a twist for the viewers, right? But I just don't understand it at all. I mean, it just really doesn't make sense. They really should have built this up a little bit more so that we could see why exactly he flips and why he sabotages the bullets, right? But instead, we don't see anything pretty much, and we just see that he sabotaged it. And then we see Rosita, just punch him in the face, but she seems fine with him now. A little bit off there, right? And honestly, I felt like this finale was very predictable in many ways. A lot of people predicted that Negan would live, including me. I thought that they would keep him alive. They kind of psyched us out there for a minute because he sliced his throat, but he ends up, saving him. So he lives. And just the Oceanside coming back, there were just a lot of stuff that was predictable here. I mean, even Eugene sabotaging the bullets. I mean, if you read the comics, if you kind of paid attention to what's going on here, you may have, got that as well. Dwight, Daryl letting Dwight go. So there was just a lot of things that were very predictable in this one. There wasn't a lot of surprises. There wasn't any surprise deaths. So yeah, I mean, that's a negative and a positive. I mean, you want things to be predictable. You want things to go the way you wanted them to. But at times you want some surprises, and Walking Dead usually does that in finales. But this one kind of was predictable. Maybe that's just me though. Maybe that's just me being kind of a not a super fan, but more involved fan, and looking into like the sneak peeks and the trailers each week and listening to stuff. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It could be, right? But anyways, then a civil war between Maggie and Rick. What? I mean, like, what does this mean? So does this mean Maggie's going to be against Rick now? And then, they're going to be fighting against each other in season 9? Like, I don't know. I just really didn't understand that. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But obviously, they got to set up some things for the next season. So I guess that's, what that is. Awesome connections, right? If the flashbacks used, just awesome stuff there with Rick and Carl. Everything with Rick and Carl was done to perfection in this one. If, not counting these other things, it would have been a perfect episode. That was just awesome stuff there with him sitting back at that tree, right? My mercy prevails over my wrath. All that stuff. So just really crazy stuff there. Connecting everything back together. Very emotional as well. And like I said at the very beginning, it was a jam-packed finale. There was so much stuff in this episode that they crammed in here. And my question is, did it all have to be crammed in here? Could we have seen this a couple episodes earlier? Probably, right? But it's Walking Dead, so they have to jam everything together in a finale, I guess. That's just how they've done it. So then, I also think that the Morgan changing seemed very well done. I do think it was a little bit sudden, right, after just one conversation with Jesus, but I think towards the end there, you kind of see that he has changed, right, and you kind of see that, that he's really not changed, not that he's changed forever, right, permanently, but he's changed in the way that, he's kind of starting to rethink things. He's kind of coming back to reality here. So that was well done. I thought that was okay. And my last thing, they should have killed Negan. Honestly, I think it would have helped the viewers. Season 9 is probably going to be the least viewed season. I've seen people say that, but I totally agree. By keeping Negan alive here, you're letting down a lot of casual viewers. And I think for The Walking Dead, I don't think this is a positive thing that they let Negan live. I would have loved to see him killed. I totally understand why they let him survive. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I think it's a bad decision for the show to do that. And I think they're going to suffer the consequences in Season 9, to be honest. But anyways, that is what it is. Favorite character for this one, just to wrap things up here, is Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln. Andrew Lincoln did an amazing job, as always, in this episode. But to see that, the change in Rick here, just from episode 14 and taking all those saviors out in the bar to now, trusting Carl and, actually, using what he said and implementing it, finding that new world, there's got to be something after, he says and all this stuff. My mercy prevails over my wrath. He ends up saving Negan. So, yeah, really great stuff there. And Rick was definitely a standout in this one to end off the war. So, yeah, really great stuff there. That'll just about do it for the review. Again, I apologize for how long this one is, but I really want to tackle everything here and really, get discussing. So, anyways, I may have more on this finale, to be honest. I may make another video. Maybe Let's Talk Television this week will maybe be focused on this. But I do have some more things to talk about. So, for sure, I'll maybe be getting those out in a different video if you want to tune into that one. But for this review, that is just about it. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the support on the videos, on the channel. Really, really appreciate the subscribers, the views, the likes, the comments, everything. It's just really, really awesome right now. So, I really, really appreciate that. And I can't thank you guys enough. But anyways, that'll just about do it for this one. Again, thank you so much for watching. And I will, Walking Dead's over, right? So I won't see you until, I guess, the fall. But, if you're interested in any of the other shows on the channel that I review, please check out those reviews and let me know what you think. So anyways, guys, again, thank you again for watching. And I'll see you again soon.
Into the face of every criminal, strapped firmly to a chair. We must stare, we must stare, we must stare. We must take all of the medicines, too expensive now to sell.